What is the single most you'll understand it when you're older thing? That the quality rather than quantity of friends matters. I'd rather have 4 quarters in my pocket than 100 pennies. I had the opposite problem. I always, naturally, bonded to a small number of people very closely, and then the losses of those relationships would leave me completely alone. I had to learn to make looser friendships that were good for different things. Good people aren't always nice people, and vice versa. And number X200B, edit, thank you for the awards. Nice is not the same as kind. Nice is image management. Kind is caring about other people. Yes. There are all types of combinations of people. Kind, yet manipulative. Successful, yet an asshole. Magnetic personality, but a liar. Can we get McDonald's? No, we have food at home. My so is in his 30s and I still have to tell him that lol. Now I'm like, was McDonald's always this damn expensive? Sleep is no punishment, it is a gift. Yup, I used to dislike nap times when I was in kindergarten. Now that I'm older, I wish I could take a nap here and there during my work days. Ugh, this 100X. I had a babysitter when I was like 7 tell me that someday I would miss taking naps and wish I could take them. My parents made us take naps on Sunday afternoons to give them a break. Or now that I think about it, maybe to have sex. Don't know, don't care. Anyway, I remember thinking how silly that statement was. I would never wish I could take naps. Here I am, 24 years old, and naps are the shit. Understanding why your parents wanted you to go play with the awkward kid, or why they were so keen to help you make friends. It is beyond annoying as a kid when your parents try to guide who make friends with, but most parents instinctually know that bad social habits start early, are hard to break, and can be a real burden when you are older. My mom never liked my friend group and it really annoyed me. Looking back, half of them were assholes anyway and the other half were already doing things that led them into a life of drug addiction after high school. I never got into drinking and drugs like that, but everyone around me was doing it and I had every opportunity to. Looking back, she was just looking out for me, and even though she didn't have proof of what we were doing, she was just an adult who had lived and could tell it wasn't a good group of friends. As a kid, my dad always encouraged me to sit with anyone I saw sitting alone at lunch. Looking back, I'm horrified to say that I pretty much rolled my eyes at him every time. Now my heart explodes with love for my dad, knowing that he tried to teach his kids to be kind to those that especially need it. And I'm so ashamed and just sad that I didn't take him seriously. Something a little more lighthearted, but about half the jokes on cartoons like SpongeBob take on a whole new light once you've got more experience under your belt. You either die as SpongeBob or live long enough to become a Squidward. As someone who works in retail, I cannot identify enough with Squidward's quote from the episode where he and SpongeBob went on strike. Nobody gives a care about the fate of labor as long as they get their instant gratification. Time off. Working crazy hours in my early 20s was nice because I had a lot of money, but as I became older and more involved with my now fiancé and my friends, I realized that there's a balance. This drove me to look for a job with a little less pay but far better hours, and now I'm happy. Don't work like a slave, you'll miss a lot of good things in life. Just did that. We'll be working 40 hours a week again instead of 80 hours average. Noon looks back on their life from their deathbed and thinks, man, I wish I would have worked more. Why elderly people in nursing homes who get no visitors are so lonely and filled with despair. We had to put my mom in a home because we physically could not care for her anymore. She didn't want to be there and we didn't want her to be. But there weren't any other options. My dad was there every day until he got sick and died. My sister and I stopped in a couple of times a week each. The last month of her life I was there every day. I hope she knew I did the best I could to take care of her. Some of them you feel pretty bad for, until you realize that they were not nice people when they were young. Edit, you can downvote me, but it's true. I worked in geriatrics for 30 years. In high school I used to volunteer at an old people's homes and a lot of them were not nice, some even racist. The best was an older gentleman who initially did not like me, but after I got in a fight and he saw what he knew was a black eye, we spoke about fighting a lot. He was a bully/drunken boxer his day, and to be honest he, over the 2 years I would visit, would love to tell me tall perhaps tales of fights. He'd like to recall how he was tough and was hurting people. When he passed I saw that there was almost no one who came to see the body and was pretty much already forgotten even before death. Coming from an East Indian family where they force-feed you the whole family is family, respect your elders, it was a shock to the system for sure. The sound of your joints exploding every time you get up. Man, I've been getting that since I was in high school. Haha, yep. Just moving your arm makes something crack. What parents sacrifice just so you can do something fun. Last night my husband and I sat in a line of cars for an hour and a half so our kids could see this cheesy drive-through light display in my town with Santa and other characters. 0/10 not worth it for us, but the kids loved it and it was worth it to see them be able to do a fun Christmas activity during a pandemic. It made me think of how much my parents had to endure taking my brother and I to theme parks and stuff as a kid just to see us happy. I appreciate it infinitely more now. When I was pregnant I went to visit my hometown and my friends threw a baby shower for me, and I also had a few birthday presents from people for my birthday the month before. When I was packing to go home, there wasn't room for the baby stuff and the stuff for me, so I took home all the baby stuff and left my presents behind for my granny to bring up at a later date. And I remember sitting there looking at my suitcase being like, oh, so this is how it's going to be. LOL. It was the opposite in my family when it comes to Christmas lights. The rest of the family found them meh, but my mom loves them, so we went every year just to watch her enjoy it. LOL. One hard lesson my wife and I had to learn was that once you do something like that with your kids, they expect it every year, otherwise you're a Scrooge. So now we have at least 5 or 6 more years of waiting an hour and a half for 0/10 light displays. Oh well, it is the joy of parenting, I guess. Literally getting older. Never thought much about when adults would say you're still young, just enjoy it. I always wanted to be older because I was tired of HS, wanted to be out of college, etc. Now I want aging to slow down a bit. The thing that is the worst about getting older is seeing your parents and other loved ones age and eventually pass away. When you're a kid, even a high school age kid, you assume these people will just be around forever and things will always stay the same as they were. It makes it easier to be disrespectful and generally take them for granted. I'm now 35, and this year was the first where I started noticing physical limitations with my dad especially, and that was hard. They're minor for now, but it is only going to get worse. The biggest blow to me is realizing I likely have less than 20 years left with my parents. Losing that constant source of love and support will be hard to take. They've been a rock my entire life. My great-grandmother used to warn us that time speeds up when you're older. By gum, I think she's right. Edit, get a load of these comments. I swear there is more toilet paper here than there's been since COVID. Honestly, it depends on your childhood. I'm entering my late 20s now, definitely not old, but years away from being a kid, and I can wholeheartedly say, I started enjoying my life way more after college. Before then, I didn't have the means to properly care for myself, and was a depressed, anxious mess living off of ramen noodles. Not helping every person who says they're in need. Some folks look on your ass. Lighter side of this, no matter how much you want to, you can't help everyone, especially if they're not ready to accept your help. Time, wasting time, and how time flies. It's mid-Dec and I'm saying to myself, what the heck, it's been 9 months of COVID and I can't believe this year is almost over. As you age, it seems to go faster and faster. When I was younger, I felt like time just dragged on some days. I can remember when I was school age, the year seemed to drag on forever, then when it did end we had the 6 weeks holidays. 6 whole weeks, with hour upon hour of sunshine, towards the end of it school was but a distant memory. It felt like it would never end. Of course it always did when September finally arrived. Now I work at a school and it is terrifying how quickly we blaze through each term. Those same holidays are over in a flash. I think it is because now I'm older, I'm consciously worried about making the most of the time off, not wasting it. When I was young, the biggest worry was whether my friends and I would play in the woods or on the fell that day. Time wasn't a worry, we thought we had all the time in the world. I think the reason time flies faster when you're older is because you have more life to compare it to. Making a day seem shorter in the grand scheme of things the older you get. A lot of people have said they think this is because we have more time to compare to as we age, but I think it is something else. I think time starts to fly by because of the way our brains process experiences and store them as memories. Have you ever been driving on the highway and suddenly you realize you have absolutely no recollection of the last 5 minutes? Were you asleep? What happened? Jesus, could you have died? The answer is no, you were fine. Your brain just played a trick on you. See, this happens most often during a commute to work, or during a drive you've taken a million times. Your brain just doesn't write anything you're doing to memory because there's 1,000 identical memories there already. It is not worth remembering. You're wired to remember important and different things, not mundane things. When you're young, everything is new and different, and when you look back, it seems like childhood lasted forever because your brain was gathering new experiences to hold on to. But as you get older, you're forced into a routine. How many days are exactly like the one before it, and will be exactly like the one after? If you're working a 9 to 5, probably most of them. You put your head down and work for a week, and it is like that week of your life just. Why it's so annoying when you forget to take the chicken out of the freezer. I, too, will be ordering pizza tonight. Man, I don't know how parents in particular survived before the microwave oven. I'm a reasonably not incompetent home cook. I understand there's nothing you can do with a microwave that you can't do without one, but doing without requires a lot more time, attention, and planning ahead, all of which are in very short supply with little kids underfoot. Also, unsolicited LPT, use the lower power settings, they do take longer, but they allow the heat to diffuse out of the hot spots faster than it accumulates, so you get a nice, evenly heated meal, and not a nice salad with lava dressing. Hand-me-downs. I absolutely hated them, even though my grandma was a genius with them. Dyeing, artistic patches, new buttons, they just didn't last compared to the new clothes my older sister had. Then I had 3 boys in 6 years. I'm seriously grateful that my grandma tried so hard to make my hand-me-downs look good. I get it now. I totally thought that I was going to buy all new cute stuff for my kiddo. Then the pandemic hit and I hate buying online. My brother came by with an enormous bag full of clothes from size 1/8M3T and my sil had kept them all in pristine condition despite the fact that most of them had been worn by both of my nephews and I'm so grateful. Kiddo won't need new clothes for at least a year hopefully, he's growing fast. Same when I lost weight really rapidly. Buying new clothes is too expensive when they're going to be hanging off you in 2 months. Go to the thrift store. Friendships fading away. I remember my dad telling me all kinds of cool stories about things him and his friends did in the past. I even asked him why aren't you still friends with these people? He really did basically say it's complicated, you'll understand when you're older. Even back then I remember thinking that's crazy, me and my friends will always be friends. Sitting here now in my early 30s and it really hits home. Losing best friends is the hardest. You all just grow up and move away. As much as we hate social media, I'm happy it exists because I can easily contact my old friends. Teenagers are just kids. It is something I quite literally was not capable of understanding until I wasn't a teenager anymore. When I was a teenager I felt so grown up. And how sometimes, some adults are just kids in adult bodies. Or how adults are simply just flawed human beings too. Used to look up to adults for what's right and wrong, but as we grew older, we kind of realized that adults such as our parents are simply just flawed human beings and they may not know it all too either. I think it is because teenagers are old, at least in their minds. They are so much older than they used to be, so they feel like they know everything. How could they not? Honestly, as a teenager I thought I had it all figured out. Now that I'm in my late-ish 20s I realized I know nothing, and I knew even less 10 years ago. Why my parents would look disgusted eating/drinking anything that was sweet. I never understood why they watered down juice until now. When adults said something was too sweet, I literally couldn't comprehend that phrase. It was an oxymoron to me. Sweet equals good. How can something be too good? Now I completely understand. I used to drink lemonade every time I went out. At some point I switched and for years now I've drank not much other than water. A few weeks ago I randomly decided I wanted some lemonade with my dinner, and I almost couldn't drink it. Incredible how your taste can change over time. True. Soda used to be great. I could not imagine drinking water at a fast food restaurant. Drank so much of it. Now soda is gross, and a half can is enough. The quiet, boring, simple times are the best. Everyone's fed, happy, healthy, chill, napping. These are the good times. Very true. It is possible to do everything right and still fail. Don't let it consume you. Pick up the pieces and move on. I had to learn this after a project that I was on for 3 years was sabotaged and shit-canned. I did some amazing work, and poured my life into that project. In the end I had nothing to show for it. It put me in a real slump for a few years. I'm still trying to pull myself out of it without becoming a cynical and jaded asshole. Data learned this lesson from Captain Jean-Luc Picard. And so did I. Wow, thanks for my first awards. For people still wondering, the episode this occurs in is S2E21, Peak Performance. Thank you for saying this. My unit was closed after 20 years and it has been a struggle. I try to focus on the people helped, things learned. And to find something else that gives me the same thrill. Or maybe comparable thrill. In my teens and 20s, I just couldn't understand how my parents were so oblivious to celebrities. They were all over TV, their names and faces blasted on everything. It seemed everybody had some strong emotionally charged opinion about every major actor, musician, director, or tabloid magnate. What are they, living under a rock? Didn't take long to find out why. Growing up, I didn't have a pre-existing list of these are famous people, I learned them as they came onto the scene. Eventually, though, they all dropped off the list one by one. The list kept updating. It is a lot harder knowing who is a household name when you also have to know who is last week's news. I was only 30 when I realized, I have no idea who famous people are anymore. I just couldn't keep up at all. I've become like my parents. Don't know, and honestly, don't care. Celebrity worship, even as cursory as simply knowing their names, is a vapid, fruitless endeavor. Today's idols are tomorrow's trash. I have not experienced this with movie/TV folks, but in the last 2 or 3 years it seems like all of the musicians on the pop station have been replaced. I used to know who sang just about every new song I liked, now I'm lucky to guess 1 in 10. I try to explain this to my students all the time. They act so shocked and disgusted when I don't know who some random TikTok person is. I've seen comments on here like such and such is a national treasure and should be revered for the goddess they are, and I literally have no idea who they are, and Google them to find I've not only never seen them in anything, but never even heard of the things they're most famous for. The bar keeps moving. Not higher or lower. Just around. Edit, I'm 40. Research that I'm too lazy to go look up and cite right now says you pretty much completely disconnect from popular youth culture by about 27. Not everybody is going to like you, even if you're a good person. Conversely, not everyone you like will be a good person. Had to learn that the hard way. This one really set my mind free once I took it to heart. I actually like when people at work, for example, act like they hate you when they haven't even had a conversation with you. When someone doesn't like you, you don't need to worry about what they think or feel anymore. Fuck 'em. Less energy spent. You can be the ripest, juiciest peach there is, but someone out there doesn't like peaches. You're cool. You're cute. You're kind. You care. You're wise in mind and wit. You're sweet. You're neat. You're fine. You're fair. But some folks think you're asterisk shit. Asterisk. High school drama isn't important. Like, at all. This is very true. That said, some people will carry their high school behavior with them into the adult world and especially into the workplace, so it is important to keep your guard up and learn how to deal with those types. Socks are a very nice gift. Yup, my first birthday after buying a house and moving out, I asked for a sweater and socks and was very happy to have them. Underwear too. The nice stuff is expensive, and let's be honest, we all have a few pairs that need replacing. I learned that as a teenager, I needed socks around the holiday season, so I ended up getting about a dozen pairs. How many people have a kid thinking it is going to fix their relationship? One too many. I can't comprehend how people think this even evolutionary this works like the exact opposite. Or how many unhappy people think being in a relationship will fix their unhappiness. No, all it does it turn one unhappy person into two unhappy people. Things simply just don't work out. A job, a partner, sometimes family and friends. The most well-intended people just don't always work out. There's really no going back, you really just get one shot with each hour you get. Just have to make your peace with the choice/path you took and keep it moving. This is giving me quite a lot of anxiety, lol. I've spent the last few hours playing Minecraft, lol. Learning to live through loneliness as a child is a gift. As a teenager, I've learned that finding something I love to do was the best way to cure the blues. I've fallen in love with music, playing and listening, and let me just say Alan Jackson and George Jones are probably the only reason I'm alive today. I had to learn how to be okay being lonely shortly after I turned 21. I was by myself 1,500 miles away from my family and had just gotten out of a very, very rocky relationship. To say it was a difficult 4 months is an understatement. However, that is the most valuable 4-month span I think I have ever had. Being comfortable with yourself is such an important thing to learn. King Triton, Ariel's dad was right, she was just a child and she was not in love with the random prince she saw for all of 30 seconds. Honestly, this is a great example of what's wrong with parent-child interactions, because when we were kids, we did agree with Ariel. We were persuaded by her emotions and saw her desires as our own. As adults, we have a fully developed brain hopefully and more life experience, and therefore we aren't convinced by the ephemeral, but intense emotions, that kids/teenagers have. But rather than validating Ariel's feelings, interests and desires, Triton's basically like you're wrong for feeling that way, and also I'm going to destroy your room. Which actually happens. Parents actually do that and are then surprised when the kid turns to the only validating adult in the room, who just might be a soul-stealing witch. I really like revisiting media as an adult, not only to see how my sympathies have changed, but also to make sure that I'm not the adult who is perpetuating the conflict by not listening. Because as an adult, I expect better from myself. Edit, well, just got back from my D&D campaign to find that this exploded. Thank you, kind strangers, for the gold and various awards. Not only did it make me smile uncontrollably, but I think it highlights an important point for all of us, there is power is listening. Teenage Fish wanted some of that royal hog. Yeah, the movie was like an unironic Romeo and Juliet. Entire movie is bullshit. She could sign a contract with Ursula, but she couldn't tell the prince anything with a note. And that chef wound up being an alien puddle of goo. Who TF is in charge of undersea education? What's really going on their schools? Something is rotten in Denmark. Except Eric was just the catalyst for a thing she wanted anyway. She has an entire musical number about how she wants to see the human world, not just be with one particular dude. Yes, he was the final straw, but she wasn't collecting forks/thingamabobs and all of the other stuff in her grotto because she saw a guy for 30 seconds. And Triton never validated her, shamed her and destroyed her things when he could not crush her dreams. He also never sat her down and explained why he didn't like the human world. Like a sane friggin' parent. That everything has shades of grey/ is a sliding scale. It is so easy to understand the world as absolutes when young. Suddenly realizing in my late teens/early 20s that basically nothing is an absolute was a total revelation that really steers my understanding of everything and undoubtedly makes me a better person. There are too many adults who never realize this. I cringe so much when I think about how I used to think I knew everything when I was a teen, and everything had to be so unnuanced. I'm pretty much the opposite now, which is funny because back then I thought that I was pretty much fully developed and that this was how I was going to be forever. Some people never come to this understanding, they want to see everything as absolutes all their lives.
Like and subscribe for more Reddit content. Watch the next video at the top of your screen.